Oh, hey you. It's Kat and Steve with the Positively Midwest podcast.
Well, hello there. Now, before this next episode, let's talk about sharing our mission.
To help, we have hooked up with Anchor.fm to help us keep launching Positively Midwest to as many ears as possible. The more we expand our reach, the more lives we can help inspire.
If you haven't heard of Anchor, it is the easiest way to make a podcast. Bonus, it's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or computer.
Well, Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Apple Podcast, Spotify, Google, and many more.
You can make money with no minimum listenership, which helps our cause.
It's everything you need to make a podcast in just one place.
So go now, download free Anchor app or go to anchorapp.fm to get started.
Now, sit back and enjoy the next episode of the Positively Midwest podcast. Hey everybody, and welcome to another episode of Positively Midwest podcast. My name is Steve Jurens, and across from me as always is my lovely wife, Catherine.
Hello.
Everyone, we've hit episode number 80 of Positively Midwest podcast, and Catherine's come up with this idea of what she would like to talk about for the subject for today's episode.
Oh man, talk about pressure.
And so it's episode number 80, and the name of the episode-ish is
The positive effects of 4-H.
The Positive Effects of 4-H. What is 4-H?
So 4-H is kind of like the classroom without walls. It emphasizes the practical application or knowledge of learning by doing, developing skills, lifelong lessons, etc. A lot of people think of it just as either cows or crafts. But there's a lot more to it. And I think maybe last year... No, that wouldn't make any sense. Like, we just started this year. I was thinking we had done an episode kind of on this before, but we're nearing Achievement Day season, so it's very top of mind awareness as I was driving home from the farm today. So I thought we'd talk about it.
Well, there could be a lot of people that are familiar with the 4-H in the Midwest. If you're listening from the Midwest to Positively Midwest, if you're not... Catherine, you need to explain to the listeners, I feel, what 4-H stands for, why it's called 4-H, and what the H's of the 4's of the H's of the 4-H are, and then go into the great information that you had found, and then share with us some life experience as to why it's so important to you and your family and to integrating that into your children, because I have absolutely no idea what it feels like to go through that, what it feels like to be a part of an organization or as a child or as a 4-H leader that you are. And so I can be the uneducated, if you will, in this area, and maybe even continue to ask more questions as this episode develops. But let's pretend like people are very uneducated on 4-H and go.
Okay, first off, you said Midwest. 4-H is actually nationwide.
What I meant was that people in the Midwest might be a little more familiar with it. Pure speculation on my behalf. But I'm glad to hear that it's national. I would like to even think it might be global in some instances.
Yeah, like our national 4-H conference or like convention or headquarters, if you will, whatever it's called, is actually in Washington, D.C. So, like when I was a senior 4-Her, I was about like 19, I won the trip for Citizenship Washington Focus, which is one of those great things that you can learn to experience from 4-H. I actually took a bus with 80 kids from South Dakota, and we drove to DC where National 4-H headquarters is, and there we met up with 4-Hers from numerous states all over the country that were all there for the same purpose as we were.
And what exactly is 4-H? And what is those 4-H's of the H's?
Okay, so the 4-H's stand for your head, heart, hand, and health. like the pledge that we say.
Give us the pledge, please. Thank you.
Because it kind of explains it. You know, you pledge your head to clear thinking, my heart to greater loyalty, my hands to larger service, and my health to better living for my club, my community, my country, and my world. Because what it is supposed to be teaching these 4-Hers is to think further than just themselves. Like it's giving them these life lessons that we gain from responsibility, from having to do the activities, from having to do record keeping, from having to take care of animals. But it's also teaching them, you know, like their nutrition facts. It's teaching them, you know, like those life skills of cooking, as well as, you know, sewing and public presentation and speaking, you know, communication in front of people, interview judging, things like that. So, and then there's a big emphasis on community service and citizenship. And that's where it comes into play, that it's supposed to be giving them this wider picture than just themselves.
So then, in fact, we have spoken in previous episodes how community and social community is a very big part to positivity. So interestingly enough, I was doing some online courses, if you will, before you came in, and one of them was talking about how play has significantly, in air quotes, has significantly reduced up to 50% in today's children in some areas. And over 30,000 schools have diminished or gone away with recess. So now you have a problem with children that aren't even getting a break in school, or at least an outdoor break. And so a lot of these activities are outdoors. You know, some of the activities are cooking and cleaning and making things and whatever. But I'm sure you'll talk more on that. So what I found really interesting, though, is that this can even correlate to child obesity, which they call an epidemic right now. And we just went through a pandemic. But here you have an epidemic, which is just as dangerous. But we don't have a large... I mean, I know there's programs out there and they're seeming to address it, but not near to the extent that they did the terrible C word we just went through. So childhood obesity is very dangerous. It also is affecting our moods, the kids' insecurities, their ability to socialize, and video games and things like that. And it's not condoning it or condemning any of those, like video games and so on, because we've even talked a little bit about the positive effects of a video game. I'm a very sparing video gamer, but it's a moment to get into a little fantasy world and do stuff. You know, it's all whatever. But they suggested for every hour of a video game play that a kid does, they go outside for an hour. And then, like we talk about, people, it starts at the top. So if you get off your ass and you take your kid outside and you go for a hike, or you take your dog for a walk, you're initiating that action. They don't learn from what we say, they learn from what we do. Our actions speak louder than our words, no matter what we're talking about, really, in any context. So 4-H, to me, as I've grown and matured and seen the excitement in my children, and you know, it's not just showing cows and showing sheep and different things like that. So please continue.
Okay. So what was your first question?
Well, I just wanted you... Cheers, Creaky. Excuse me. Oh, my. What I just wanted you to elaborate further on is we always have to pretend with our educational sessions that people are unaware of what we're speaking about. So you discussed what the 4 H's of the H's are in 4-H, and now you want to talk about the positive effects of 4-H. So when you talk about engaging children, community efforts, these children learning through social community and getting along together and learning how to be cohesive, be a team, and it forces the parents to do that as well. They can sell fruit, which helps them raise money. There's just go into detail more into your... Go on a rant like I do and explain exactly what you mean about your episode.
Okay, so, you know, starting at the club level where there's different clubs all within your county, right? So in Hamlin County, we have, I think 6 or 7 clubs. I can't remember. You know, and our club is small, but, you know, we get together once a month, once every other month, what it is. The kids first off are supposed to be learning the Robert's Rule of Order. That's how we conduct meetings. They're learning how to, make motions and vote on things so they're getting a say in what's happening with their club. And then as they get into junior leaders, they're getting a say in what's happening with their county, because we're teaching them how their voice can matter. And so a lot of kids actually, take that as the civic duty, and that's like citizenship, and they really get involved more so in like state. There's a lot of kids that it sparks their interest in some of those legislature things and other civic duties. As well as then we teach them community service as our small club levels going into our county. I know my club, our kids get really excited about cleaning road ditches and doing things like that for others. They love being able to volunteer and getting out there and doing that. And so by giving kids an opportunity to make a difference is, usually huge and beneficial. And then at least once a year, every child is required to give a public presentation, a communication, a speech, a demonstration, maybe where they're teaching you something, how to make something. The girls are going to be doing their demonstrations here coming up for our county level and then going into hopefully state level in the next week. Erilyn is being able to use her interest and love of dance. And that's what she is going to teach people about, is like a form of dance. Gianna is taking her interest in skateboarding, and she's using that as teaching people like maybe the basics of skateboarding, because it's all about healthy activity is what it is, kind of taking their interest, but it's getting them to gain that confidence of speaking in front of people, which is huge, because that's, every job we have pretty much, right? You have to speak in front of people. So continuing on, now we come up, we're coming into our Chima days, which is like, your county fair, in a sense, is what some places call it. So like I said, the girls will be giving their demonstrations, illustrated talks, or public presentations. Next week, they'll also be doing special foods. So they have 90 minutes to prepare, whether it's like a main dish, as like a meal for the judge. They have to do a proper place setting, writing out their menu card, prepare the meal, showing the judge that they know proper measuring skills, how to check temperatures if they're cooking meat, teaching them those basic life skills that are so important. And then they they retain so much better than I do, like their nutrition facts. Like we were going over today, the 6 key nutrients and all the vitamins and the minerals and what foods give those to you, what they're doing for your body, which is teaching these kids how, because quite honestly, my niece was sitting there and I was like, okay, vitamin C. And she's like, well, you take the vitamin, the chewable vitamin. I'm like, well, that's a supplement, but these things are to teach you how the foods that you are intaking is what is giving you life sustainability. And that's what they're kind of supposed to be learning then, is like what they're putting into their body, how it's fueling their body properly, what their body is needing, teaching them that healthy lifestyle as well. Okay. You have any questions so far?
No, I was just going to mention earlier when you were talking about the skateboard situation that I wrote down on here, which I'd like to put in the description somehow. But, this was quite a growing moment for me, and it continues to be, as I was pretty disconnected and negative to the situation because I didn't understand it. I didn't practice empathy or compassion or try to actively listen, which we talk about a hell of a lot on this show too. And it's not just for country folk or hee-haws. I'm like a townie, so I'm like a city kid, if you will. I've been around it, enough now with Catherine, but I'm still not. I'm a city kid, if you will. So, when I interact with my children or I go to these things because it's like a kid thing to go to, in the beginning that's what it was, just watching these, and then they're like making cookies, and I'm like, what the hell? And I don't understand it. And so then I do realize what it does and that they get excited for it, and how, they've modernized in a sense. To me, maybe it's always been this way, I don't know, but 4-H in a sense where they can incorporate these things, and they can show dogs and there's computer based things. Like in one of the meetings they had a video and a slideshow, and I mean it's not just a bunch of dip chewing hee-haws leading cows around and spray paint hairspraying cows.
I mean, we'll get to that.
Well, that was the most I'm just being open because that's what our stuff is about. And so that's how I looked at it, and then the only thing that frustrates me that I now realize more, though, of how it's because it's so important to you and you're passionate about it, is if you take it on, and I looked at it as, and you're getting so frustrated and anxious, why would you even do it? Or you're only doing it because your mom was in it for 1,000 years. And I don't mean she's super old. I'm just being dramatic, if you ever listen to this. So, and that you've taken the baton, if you will, and it's like, well, you're just doing that because you think that you should, or your mom's making you do that. But obviously, I see the joy and the passion that you have for it and continuing it in our children. And if we have grandchildren 20 years from now, plus.
Let's not go there.
But anyways, I'm sure you'll be all up in that grill.
Yeah. Okay.
Continue.
So that was special foods. So the next thing that they also have next week is fashion review. Now, this is where Gianna does not get into it quite as much as Erilyn on this level, because while you can model an outfit that you've selected at a store and purchased, because it's teaching them good consumer decision making, it's teaching them to, maybe look for bargains, it's teaching them to check seams, making sure that things are lined up, that buttons are properly attached, that their outfit matches accordingly, things like that. Like, there is a lot that goes into that for smart consumer decision making, but a lot of the big portion, or the main portion of fashion review, is sewing. So Gianna really hates sewing. I think we got her to do it one of her years, maybe a couple of them that we've forced her, but Erilyn actually really enjoys it. So she is in the middle of making some really super cute box shorts and like a tank top to go with. So it's kind of fun to see it, teaching them those life skills of how to be able, while it's actually has gotten so much more expensive than when I was a kid to buy patterns and fabric and to sew it. You can really buy an outfit for cheaper than what it is. It's teaching her those amazing life skills of how to do it, or how to mend something, and how to sew on a button, because as we become adults, how many times have you lost a button, honey?
Unfortunately, far too many to count.
And thank goodness I have supplies and know-how.
And on a quick sidebar, because I'm always the whatever, it's okay within the organization or within the family that Gianna doesn't like to sew, because there is another way, which you've explained, that they can do that project and it's acceptable. And that's what we've talked about in schooling in the past too. And another reason I would appreciate this organization is that they have molded to, invite in multiple people. And there are what you would quote unquote call city kids that will borrow or rent animals too, to go and show them, if you will. But that, we all too often we put people or children or whatever in these boxes, and you try to make them, this is the way that it's got to be. But it's open, and it allows children to be who they are and still learn these necessary future things. So I appreciate that they're open-minded about that.
Right. And, our kids, are like I was. I was like super active, and that's kind of what I'm trying to teach them. While you don't have to participate in all these things, there's numerous kids that never do special foods, never do fashion review, never do the public presentations except for at their club level. And that is okay. What I'm trying to teach our kids is like to try to get the most out of it, because as I learned growing up, the more I did and pushed myself to do those, I thought it made me a more rounded individual. Plus, it opened the door to winning awards as you get to be older, winning scholarships, I got to go to Washington, D.C. I've gotten to go to Atlanta, Georgia for 4-H conference. You know, I won other cash awards for giving, you know, speeches and public presentations on topics. And so it opens the door for those other opportunities as well. You know, so not every kid is quite as involved in gung-ho as we are, that we do a lot of those things, you know?
Well, and there's like shooting and different things our kids like don't do, but archery and stuff like that.
Right. And so, you know, now when it comes to like the indoor static exhibits is what it's called. That's when, you know, you can do your sewing, otherwise entries, you know, crafts, projects. Some kids do rocket spaceships or arrows, you know, music, and there's so many topics that they can do besides just crafts and baking and gardening.
I like photography.
Yes.
There's usually a big wall at the state fair of art and photography.
Yeah, there's like a whole building just for photos that kids take and enter. And so it's teaching them different rules, you know, like photography. It's teaching them the basics of, you know, rule of thirds, making sure you're not having distractions, something cut off, something going into somebody's head. It's like kind of teaching them those like, you know, basic photography skills, you know, as well, you know, with the baking and doing things like that. It's teaching them those life skills of, okay. And then the best thing about it that I find to be one of the most beneficial things about 4-H is when they make these exhibits. Now they bring them in at county level and they sit down and they interview judge. So they have an adult that is going over their project and the kids are to explain how they made it. Maybe what was the hardest part about doing it, what they like about it, how they would utilize this project, or, you know, their learning aspects from it. And the difference that you see in these kids sometimes from year one of interview judging with an adult versus year two is incredible. But every human has to go through interviews in life, right? That's like a basic necessity. You get a job, you go through an interview. So we're starting these kids out young by teaching them that confidence of doing that. And then, yes, they get critiqued on it and they get ribbon placings, but that's kind of like the learning curve as well, because the judge explains to them like what they should have done differently, how they can do something better, or maybe that they didn't follow proper rules. And so it's learning curves for them. But it's that skill of that interview judging is phenomenal to me. Okay, what else? And then, you know, the worst part that the kids hate is the record keeping, where they have to keep track of what they did enter, what ribbon placings they got, what goals they had, if they met their goals. And I know every kid hates their 4-H book, but it's still one of those life skills that's beneficial when you're an adult that maybe you'll appreciate. And then, yeah, so now on to like animals, I guess. So Gianna this year is trying something different. She's showing dog. It is not just leading a dog around a ring. She definitely has a lot to memorize as far as like different patterns, different kind of like tricks or so. With your dog, having them make sure that they listen to you, knowing the 8 vaccines that your dog should be receiving, proper care of your dog, the body parts of them. Like there's a lot that she is like working on memorizing, but she loves it. So while she doesn't like to sew, she is loving learning all about the dog program and the cat program, because she wants to show a cat this year for the first time. So that one is totally outside of my element too. These are things that I did not do as a kid, so I am learning along with her. And so it's a lot of information to retain, but it's really interesting and, you know, good to know as a pet owner. And then, you know, there's lots of different animals that they could show. There's dairy, beef, goats, swine, sheep, poultry, rabbits, horse. I think that's about all the species. We show beef. So currently we have 5 in the barn. 1 is the nieces. 3 are signed up for Erilyn to show and 1 for Gianna. And so we've been halter breaking these animals. They're learning how to make them walk, how to make them stand nice to show off their best features of being a breeding animal. These cattle are babied. I know some people find it, you know, cruel or something to be showing these cattle, but these cattle are babied. They got their first bath today to get rid of, some of the mud from it being rainy and stuff, And so we scrub them and we comb them and then we give them haircuts and, they loved it. I can tell you today, these 5 animals, even some that were a little rowdy at the beginning because it's hot and 90 degrees, were so calm as they stand there, tied up, but not in a chute or anything, loving getting a bath that we're scrubbing them. So I don't know what else. And so it's teaching them that huge thing of responsibility, taking care of, those animals and whatever species that these kids choose to show. I'm trying to think if there's something else you wanted to know.
That I wanted to know?
Yeah, I don't know.
I would say, what else do the listeners want to know?
I don't know. Okay, so I found this one today. I was trying to find what is the current number of 4-Hers in 4-H as of 2021, and I couldn't find it. The website was not wanting to pull up, but in the fiscal year of 2007, this says off of youth.gov, there were 6 million 4-H participants, 413,000 adult volunteers, 105,000 youth volunteers, and then they're from rural and urban settings. So while at that time, 47,000 of those participants lived on farms or rural areas with populations under 10,000, but 53,000 or 53% of them lived in towns, cities, and suburbs with populations over 10,000 or greater. So that kind of shows it's not just, small pickings here. I mean, 6 million kids in 4-H is a big number. So, and it's been around, I was reading that too. I mean, it's been around for, I'm trying to read through the article quick and find it. I'm missing it. I thought I circled it, how long it's been here. For more than a century, 4-H has made tremendous impacts, it says. So for more than a century, it's definitely, ours in South Dakota is operated and ran by our SDSU, extension is kind of who operates and comes out with criteria, rules, and things like that to help keep things updated and as well. So things are always moving with the times instead of staying stagnant. But
well, and so you can go to 4-H.org, and there's a lot of information on there, but you can find your local 4-H through there. You can also find ways to participate. And then I'd like to tell you about this, which is 4-H around the world. So there is a global network in the 4-H thing. So
that would only make sense since I guess we have foreign exchange students that are just a part of the 4-H program, that they come and stay with families from other countries, or some of our kids have gone to other countries. And I think that is through the whole 4-H program. I forgot about that.
Yeah, so that would, those are a couple of websites that you can check out if you are interested and you would like to try to find a 4-H in your area. But so basically, the positivity of 4-H is it's teaching life skills, and it teaches these children to be cooperative and to be individuals and be independent, and
teamwork.
There's
because they have to work together to clean out barns and everything like that, and work together as clubs. So teamwork. And
a lot of skills and outdoor things that just seem to be, going by the wayside. So check out 4-H. If you don't have any interest in that, then check out something that your kids are into. Maybe talk to them. Maybe ask them questions. Maybe get to know your children. And it's not just our responsibility to raise kids and get them out of our house, but to raise human beings, future human beings in society that will interact and engage with the rest of the society that we've created and make their own way, make a difference. Wouldn't you like to have your children be fully prepared for many different situations? One of the best things that we can teach our children is resilience and gratitude. And those are two things that I see a lack of in a lot of younger people at times. But there are obviously very compassionate people. There's very empathetic people out there. You see a lot of changes in the world because of that. But at the same time, I would love to see some more gratitude out of our children and, more resiliency. So the way the world is, it's cool now. You'll see more plus size women, if you will, being on Instagram and things like that. Or there's more posts of these filters, but we were talking last night about an app that its sole purpose is to upload photos that are filtered, and no judgy pants. It's just, I guess it could help create a society where it's not a lot of natural. We're not focused on the natural beauty of each other and what we have to offer in this world. So just love yourself and find some gratitude, be resilient, find some happiness practices. And 4-H sounds pretty groovy.
Yeah, so if you have a local county, fair, achievement days, go check it out. Watch what these kids are doing. They are really proud, and they do a lot of work to do it. If you go to your state fair, that's usually coming up here in beginning of September. Go check it out. Go walk through those 4-H exhibits, walk through those barns, watching those kids work with animals, watch these kids what they've sewn or made and done, and it's really amazing. So this is like, I always talk about this, and dance is what our girls are equivalent to, like sports. Our kids aren't basketball players, but our kids do dance and our kids do 4-H. And these things are like their state championship in a sense. So there's a lot of kids out there like that, love this kind of a thing. And so whichever activity your kid wants to be involved with, make sure that you are finding one that works for your family. It doesn't have to take a lot of time, but it's so beneficial for your children.
Good?
I think so. I just rambled and I didn't really look at any of my notes. So
I don't think you rambled. I think if you talk from your heart, the passion comes through.
Yeah. Well, it was something I did for 11 years of my life. And now I'm a leader and have our kids doing it. And I hope they're enjoying it. I think they are.
How do you like, in air quotes, running an episode?
People got to hear me talk a lot more than normal. Usually I just sit here quietly and nod.
Yeah, it's interesting trying to read through those articles and gain perspective and... Right?
Uh-huh.
Interesting. Okay. Good?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Did you say thank you for listening to everyone?
Thank you, everybody, for your time. I truly appreciate it.
Good. All right, here we go. Well, thank you all from the bottom of our hearts for listening to the Positively Midwest podcast. Our hope is to inspire, engage each other's thoughts, and leave you with some great advice. Be sure to join our Facebook group and follow us on Instagram at Positively Midwest Podcast. Make sure you like, comment, share, and screenshot our podcast with all your cool friends. Every little bit helps. We are on most all major platforms, and you can stream it on our website at positivelymidwest.com. Also, check out our merch in the online store. All proceeds go to help those find therapy or rehab. Please reach out to us at positivelymidwest@gmail.com if you would like to look into therapy or rehab. Thank you, and as always, please always stay positive.